Oh hey there, this is probably my most requested video ever. Today we're going to be drawing Naruto. I made this for beginner digital artists in Photoshop or Clip Studio, but you can follow along with pencil if you just want to learn to draw Naruto better. We can only start once you hit that subscribe button. Now before we start drawing, you want to remember to create a new layer just for your line art. Press Command-Shift-N to create a new layer. Now we create our underdrawing. You start by drawing a line straight down the middle, and then we want to draw a crossed line, and that's going to be the center of the face, and the line across is going to be the eye line. That's where we're going to draw the center of the eyeballs. The jawline is not perfectly rounded, and it has this kind of an abrupt angle that it goes to. It's not like a hard angle though, keep it kind of a rounded angle. And these should be symmetrical on the right side of the head and the left side of the head. And what we're doing is we're drawing the underdrawing. If you're learning to draw, you want to remember that everything is constructed of these primitive shapes. And we make a mark for where the nose will be, which is about halfway down from the eyes to the chin. And then that also lets us know where we should be placing the mouth as well, which he's smiling, so it's a little higher. Now that we've got our basic underdrawing, our structure of our face, we can start to figure out like, well, where is the neck gonna go? He kind of has a little bit of a thin neck. You don't want it to be as wide as his entire head. Then we just want to get a little bit of his neck in there, and then we want to draw that oval as it's wrapping around. This is the opening of his sweatshirt, his famous sweatshirt that he wears. It looks like a sweatshirt anyway. And you want to kind of imagine that this goes behind his head too. So you want to, if you want to sketch that in, you can feel free to do that. We're gonna erase all this stuff out later. And as you're drawing along, feel free to pause the video if you want to just catch up or capture a little bit closer to what you're seeing me do. The eyes are the trickiest part, and I would say that it's best if you want to just start with just drawing the top halves of the eyes in, and then draw in the lower half. And then remember, you don't have to connect the lines at the center point or the outside point. And then I draw a line across for where the headband would be. It's kind of a tall headband. Naruto actually has a lot of big hair. It's okay if your lines are a little bit loose or sketchy. You'll notice that sometimes I just erase or draw over it. I use Control-Z or Command-Z on a Mac to undo my lines if I feel like I want to redraw that. Then you want to make sure that, by the way, the headband is a little thick, so you want to make sure that you've got a little thickness to it there. It's bigger than the size of his head. His ears are roughly from the tops of his eyes down to that corner point of his jawline, just above that. And you can already start to see, like, it's starting to look a lot like Naruto here. We're getting pretty close, and you know, don't hesitate to maybe pull up another image of Naruto if you want to try to look at it as a reference to try to capture the look of the shape of his eyes, or get those exact little shapes in his ears down. These are really tricky to capture. Now for the pupils, Naruto has these really kind of wide eyes, and so you want to start with maybe making a little dot for where the center of each eyeball is going to be, and make sure that's along that eye line that we sketched in, and then just draw a circle around it. His eyeballs don't touch the tops or bottoms of his eye shape, unless of course if he's looking up or looking down. But if he's looking straight at you, he's wide-eyed. And then he has these angry eyebrows. They're really thin, really angular triangles for his eyebrows. And they just kind of tuck right up under his headband. He's got a little bit of hair coming out of his sideburns, and then he's got a mullet in the back. The key signature of every great character of all time is a mullet. Even in Japan, they recognize the power of the mullet. For the top of his head, just remember it's basically like an explosion. You know, we're basically just drawing an explosion here. Naruto's hair is entirely comprised of a series of triangles. There's no smoothed out part of his hair. And I think pretty much at every angle that you might draw this character from, his hair is exploding. There is no curvature or soft angles on his hair. It's all real sharp. Then we want to add a few more details, like the spacing between this collar that he has on his sweatshirt. If anybody has any idea of what they call that, please do leave that in the comments below. Now I'm gonna erase some of my guides, and you start by clicking on the eraser tool up here, and then you'll want to select a brush. And if you don't know where your brushes are, you can go to Window up here in this menu, and then go down to Brushes and pull it up, and you'll see it'll usually pop up in a window that sometimes you can kind of park. And if you want those brushes always available, you can just grab that from the top of the frame and drag it out into the canvas area. It's not in your painting, but it's always available. But now that you have the eraser selected and you've chosen a brush shape for your eraser, now you can begin to erase out. This is not a necessary step though, because we're going to end up just using this entire layer as just sort of a half opacity guide for our final line art. All right, so let's make our sketch layer less opaque by adjusting this opacity slider here on the layer that we had created with our sketch lines on it. And we're going to create a new layer for the final line art layer, the clean line art layer. And remember, that's Shift Command N as a new layer. And now it's okay to zoom in. Now, one way to do that is to hold down the Z key on your keyboard and then just drag the Wacom across the surface of your tablet. Or you could just hold down the Command key and press plus or minus on your keyboard to zoom in and zoom out. Now, the brush I've chosen to use is my pencil brush. I have all of my brushes available. If you want them, go ahead and click on the link in the description below the video. And it's okay if you want to develop your line art skill, this is going to really help you a lot. So basically I'm on this new layer. You notice I'm on that third layer and I'm just going in with the pencil tool and I'm really just darkening and strengthening all of my lines. Now make sure that you're not on that sketch layer that you had created before, because if you remember, we set the opacity for that layer down to about like 30%, and that's why it's all grayed out back there. We are absolutely we've got to be on that top layer, the topmost layer. And the rest of this process is really quite easy. You're really just kind of going along for the ride. Now, you certainly, there is something to be said for developing your cleanliness of your lines. I like a little bit of grain. That's why I'm using that pencil brush. But if you wanted something that looked really clean, like an animation cell, then it's okay to use just the regular hard round that's got the size set to pressure. Remember, specifically for Naruto, he does not have lines connecting the sides of his eyes. You just see the top and you see the bottom. And then the nose is just the two dots from his nostrils. We're going to add in some depth when we get to the color phase of the drawing, but that's not for a little while yet. We're only 10 minutes into this drawing. You might take a little bit longer. Again, remember, you can take your time. This isn't a competition. You're not in a hurry, and it's okay to just maybe pause the video or redraw a line. It's okay to try something and then erase it. It's okay to just sketch something in and maybe it's not as accurate to what you want it to be. And so you could just redraw that line, and you'll see me do that quite a lot actually, even during this phase where I'm really trying to maybe add a little bit of depth. And you'll notice some of the lines get a little bit thicker. Those are usually the underside of a line, like the shadow side of a line, for example. And we're probably going to have the light coming from the top of the screen, so the underside of, say, his chin or the underside of his headband could be a little bit thicker, a little bit stronger, a little bit more of a defined, thicker line than the top side where there would be more light. So you can use line thickness to create a feeling that there is a little bit of shadow actually being cast, because lines are really just they don't exist in real life. They're basically simulating shadow. And the more you do this kind of digital inking, the better you're going to get at it, the more confident your lines are going to get. Now, sometimes you need an angle that it's hard to get to, so you want to rotate your canvas. You can do this by hitting the R key, as in rotate. Then when you touch your pointer to the canvas, you're going to be able to drag it to rotate the canvas. But then when you want to get back to your brushes, you hit the B key to get back to brush drawing. And in Photoshop, this will allow you to rotate your canvas. Other digital art programs do have something similar to every one of the features that I've talked about so far, including the rotate canvas. Now don't worry, rotating your canvas doesn't rotate your saved file. Remember to save often, by the way. You'll notice that if I switch off and switch on that sketch layer, you can see that my line art is on a totally different layer. I'm not even affecting that sketch line layer. That's my guide. That's just so that I know where I'm drawing. Now, aren't you so glad that you did all those rough sketched lines in the beginning and figured out where everything's supposed to be? Now the rest of this part's just the fun part. It's just practicing getting better at your inking and your line art. Basically, just some things to keep in mind is watch out for those shadow areas and make sure that if you have any thick lines, they're on the underside of things. Make sure that all of your lines connect nicely and neatly. And don't feel bad if you have to kind of draw over the same line a couple of times to make sure that you get a nice straight line, or Command Z to undo that line and then redraw it. It's okay. You're not really in any hurry or any competition here. This is all about training, and it's all about getting the likeness and getting a drawing that you feel really good about for your drawing of Naruto here. Personally, I'm a big believer in small wins, and that's what these videos are designed to do, is to get you some small wins. These are training wheels drawing processes, and if you want to expand on this, you can easily start to draw the character from any different angle that you want, as long as you understand the foundation under drawing, that early stuff that we did at the beginning of this drawing, where I was drawing out those guides and figuring out where the eye line is and the nose line. You could do that for any object in any angle. And the more of these kind of videos that you follow of mine, the better you're going to get at this. The more you repeat this process and you draw different types of things, the better you're going to get at this. Sometimes you'll run out of room on your canvas, and if you want to extend that, you can use the crop tool and then just drag the side of the border of your canvas up a little bit. You notice that gives me a little bit more room so that I can actually extend my image just a little bit up there. Now we want to progress around the rest of these triangles on his head, and it's okay if you mess this up at all, and you don't have to follow those original sketch lines exactly, by the way. I wanted to mention that. They're a great guide, but they don't have to be set in stone. It's okay if you want to, maybe it just looks better to you if you have fewer spikes or maybe smaller spikes. It's also not a bad idea to look up some reference. I had to look up the reference for how to draw this, specifically like how to draw this hidden leaf symbol. It's kind of a tricky swirl that's shaped like a leaf with a point at the end of it. It's not so easy to get down. It's okay if you wanted to put that on another layer, just in case if you mess it up, you can erase that out, you know. And then also getting the position of these whiskers correct. It's probably best to start with the top one and then do the middle one. And then the bottom one is the shortest one. Probably the longest one seems to be the top one. And then they get progressively shorter as they get lower. And this is just sort of that, he's the nine-tailed fox, right? So like he's got foxy whiskers, okay? Kind of one of the unique things about the character. With the collar, we wanted a little bit of the feeling that there are these ridges to it and a thickness to it. So our guide is great for understanding the shape, the underlying shape of this object, but we want to add a little bit of these sort of clumps of material as they're connected together in these bands of cloth. And so it's okay to have a little bit of just hints of lines. And remember, you get more detail in the shadows. So that's why you're going to see more of the line work in those shadow areas. And then make sure that you're not perfectly smooth with your edges around the rim of the collar of his. It's almost like a jumpsuit. I wonder do they just call it a jumpsuit in Naruto? It's really bothering me that I don't know. Maybe somebody out there knows. If you have answers, I must know. Please do leave that in the comment below. Now we've got our line art done, but if you wanted to, you could leave some of your sketchy line art in behind the drawing, and that really makes it look like it's a hand-drawn thing, but that's up to you. It's a little bit of a personal preference of how you want to present your own artwork. I'm going to leave that up to you. And your line art for your Naruto drawing is done. Fantastic. If you're drawing on paper, you can be done. I certainly hope this helped you to draw better Naruto. If you want to be able to draw any character at any angle you can possibly imagine, I want to encourage you to go over and check out my easy art lessons over on my Gumroad. These are easy step-by-step real-time lessons that'll get you up and drawing everything at any angle at any time. Within 20 days, you can learn to draw whatever you want. I also have my free digital artist starter kit over there for a free download that'll get you basics of working with digital programs. Now, not everybody's going to be up for the challenge of going into color, but if you're ambitious and you're determined to learn to draw, then come on back tomorrow and I will give you a step-by-step real-time guide just like this one for how to color Naruto in Photoshop or any digital art program of your choice. So don't forget to subscribe and I'll see you in the next video. All right, ciao.